Welcome, Amy White from Worthy Written Words, and today we are going to be working on this Walk in the Light Bible journaling page kit. And it has some interactive elements in it that are really cool, and I'm so excited to share these with you. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put together this interactive element. Now on this black cardstock envelope there are these lines, and we are going to be folding on where these lines where you can see them, fold them in to make this little envelope. And to make this work really well, you're going to use this bone folder that's in your kit. It might look like this, it might look a little different, but it works exactly the same way. And it will make that a really nice, crisp, clean fold. So after you bend it with your fingers right on that scored line, then you're going to go over it with the side of the bone folder, just like that, until it's nice and crisp and laying flat. And we're going to do this on all four sides of this envelope, as well as the paper that's in your kit. It's just like regular printer paper, but if you look at it, you'll see that it also has some lines on it, and you want to fold those as well. As also this little tab right here, the pull here tab, you'll want to crease those as well. Now when we're done with that, we're going to lay this white paper inside of the black envelope just like this, and you're going to want to be able to fold it. So if yours might be fine. Mine had a little bit too, it was a little bit too wide when I was done creasing it. If yours doesn't fit nice and snug, then you'll just want to trim a little bit off the side so that it doesn't fold over on top of itself. And then when that's sized right, we're going to put it off to the side for a minute. And the next thing that we're going to work on is the cardstock that says "Let us walk in the light of the Lord," and we're going to want to make sure that our plastic that goes on top of it is exactly the same shape. So if it's a little too thick or a little too long, then you're going to want to trim it so that they're exactly the same. So what I did first is I connected both of these to this pull tab by adding some micro dots to the inside of this pull tab right here, and I attach it so that part of the pull tab is on the top and part of the pull tab is on the bottom, so they are connected together so that they won't be moving anymore. And then I take a pair of scissors, or I use an Exacto knife, and I trim off the excess that are hanging off the sides, as well as the excess of that pull tab that's hanging off either side of that with just some scissors. And it can be a little awkward, and so what I ended up doing was, when the scissors wasn't really working as well as I wanted them to, is I lined it all up on like a cutting mat and used a ruler and a Exacto knife to really get that nice and precise. Next, we are going to attach some of this double-sided craft tape to our envelope, and then also this paper part we're going to attach inside. I just use this AdTech craft tape micro dots. You could use whatever kind of craft tape that you have. It works with this paper because it's nice and light. However, with the cardstock itself, you definitely want to use something more thicker, such as the craft tape. So that's why I've got that craft tape. I haven't pulled it off yet, but I've got that for the outside of the cardstock. And here, as I'm doing it, I'm noticing when I fold it over, there's like a weird crease in it, so I'm just going to pull it up and just try and make it as flat as possible so that there aren't any weird bubbles coming up. You also want to try and keep this paper as clean as possible, since this part is going to be seen through the plastic transparency. So if you get a stain on it, then you're going to see that. So now that I have the paper in there, I'm going to attach this envelope so that it's sealed, and I'm going to go over it again with my bone folder just to make it nice and crisp. And I'm going to cut off anything that's hanging off that I don't like. And we're going to set this aside again, and we're going to work on this insert for a bit. We're going to color in the light bulb so that it's yellow, and I'm just using a yellow Sharpie. You can use any yellow marker that you want. Now trying to hold it as straight as you can so that the transparency is lined up perfectly with the cardstock underneath. I'm going to go over the words with this fine tip Sharpie that's black. Now I tried this with a few different tools. I did it with a regular gel pen and I did it with a glaze gel pen, and the Sharpie looked the best out of all three of them. So that's why that's included in your kit. And after I go through and just kind of outline it, then I can take it off and color it all in really, really well. And I actually go over it multiple times because the first time I did it, it looked more gray. And then the second time I went over it, it was able to look darker and more black, just like what was underneath. Now when I'm done with this, the end is kind of, it's all off-centered a little bit, so I wanted to add something to the beginning of the transparency. And I'm just going to do some doodle lines. You can do whatever you want to do. You could do little dashes, like sewing dashes. You could do straight lines. I'm going to do crisscross lines. And I'm going to go over it multiple times so that it's darker. And this is just going to make it so that there's not a huge, big blank space once you put this inside of the envelope. Here's how you put this inside. You take the heavy cardstock and you put it in the very back behind the white piece of paper in the middle, and then you put the transparent part in front of the white piece of paper in the middle. Now when you pull it out, if you were to pull it out all the way, it would just come out. But if you just leave it in there and don't take it all the way out, then you can go back and forth and you can see how that interaction works. If it keeps getting stuck, you might want to trim the whole piece so it's a little bit thinner. That seemed to work for me, but that is how the magic of this works. Now I'm actually going to be using this double-sided tape on the part that's on the transparency because it just doesn't want to stick to it very well. So this is just going to help hold it down a little bit better. Since you're pulling on it a lot, it takes a lot of abuse. So if yours is sticking just fine, then don't worry about it, but mine was having a hard time, so I added that. And now we are going to work on in the actual scriptures. So the first thing that we're going to do is use some junk washi tape, and we are going to seal off where the scriptures are so that we don't get any paint on any of the words. Also, to protect the previous page, I'm going to use some washi tape and tape some scrap paper just to protect any black paint from getting on that other page. And now I'm going to take the black paint and I'm going to apply it to everywhere on this page except for where the scriptures are. You're only going to need to do one coat and then maybe any touch-ups that are needed, and it should only take a few minutes for this to dry, and then we can move on to the next step. You don't even need to do the footnotes really because we're going to be covering that up, but oh well. And then when it's nice and dry, you can remove the washi tape from the scriptures as well as from the scrap piece of paper. Now, if you're pulling this off and it starts to rip the page underneath it, the text, then stop pulling and start from the other direction and pull carefully from that side to avoid ripping the words off your page. Now we're going to attach the bottom, this mechanism to the bottom footnotes of our page, and we're going to add this by using double-sided craft tape on the bottom. And I went ahead and centered that on the footnotes section of the page. It's not off to the one side or the other. It's it's centered, and then you want to push down really, really hard to make that nice and secure. Now I'm going to highlight this verse, it's verse number 5, using a yellow mild liner highlighter. You could use any yellow highlighter or marker or crayon that you know that won't bleed through to the back side. We're going to heat up our hot glue guns, and we are going to attach these light bulb patches to the side of our margin along with this elastic round cord. So I'm just cutting the cord to be approximately the size of how long I want them to lay down, and I'm having this lowest one rest on top of the mechanism just to kind of tie it in together. You don't have to do that, but I just kind of thought it was nice that they were kind of touching and it wasn't two separate elements. So I'm just cutting these to the correct lengths with a little bit of extra, and then I'm going to attach these elastic cords to the back side of the light bulb patches, and then I'm going to put the light bulb patches down on the margin. Then I am going to leave the middle as is of these cords, and I'm just going to glue the tops, the very top of the cord to the top of the page. And then I'm going to cut off any that is hanging off the edge, and I'm going to want to put a little bit of the hot glue on the end of the cord so that it doesn't fray over time, so it kind of seals that cap. Now for the finishing touches, we're going to take the tab label and put it in the middle of the tab, and then we're going to attach this tab to the page using an acid-free glue stick, and that's going to go on just the lower bottom half of the tab so that the top part can stick up above the page, and then we're going to attach that even more by adding a little bit of washi tape to it. And that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to make this little mechanism, and be sure to follow and subscribe so that you can stay up to date on all the latest video releases, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.